How to work with numbers in Python. First, let's see how floating point numbers work. Floating point numbers are a data type just like integers, but the only difference between integers and floating points are that floating point numbers have a decimal point. So instead of your integer being just 7 or 5, floating point numbers would be 7.0, 5.0, etc. First, I'll show you the difference between integer and float point numbers. So here I have the variable a with the value 2, and then I have the variable b with the value 1.99. Now when I find the data type of a, it says int. But the same way, if I find the data type of b, it says float. So as you can see, the only difference is the decimal and then the numbers after the decimal. We can convert the integer into float by just writing float. And then in the bracket we write the variable in which the variable or the value what you want to convert to float. This is called typecasting to float. Now suppose I have the variable a and its value is 5. And now I can see the data type that it is integer. It's just 5 and an integer 5. Now if I add to it any floating point number, so a is equal to a plus 1.5. Now the data type of a, we'll see what happens. It changes to float. So when you do operations where the result would be a float point number, Python implicitly typecasts the variables. So here you didn't have to change it to float, rather it happened implicitly. Next, now I'll show another way in which you have initially two integer values, but the operation gives you a float value. The best example for that is division. So now suppose I have the variable b is equal to 9 divided by 3. When I print b, it will give 3.0. So it is not just 3. Now, if I want to confirm it, I find the data type, it shows float. So that's all in floating point numbers in Python. You can use floating point in a lot of floating point numbers are used in a lot of places, and they are great for precision. Suppose you have a value 7.99, that will be a better representation than 8, because it still gives you a better or in cases of percentages, etc. Having the precision that floating point numbers give is great compared to integers. Integers are good in terms of operations, etc., but floating point also have their own value.